the Speaker, the Chairman, the President, and our fellows, and everyone that is here seated. Thank you very much. Please, can we welcome our President-elect?
All right. Good morning. Very soon it's going to be afternoon, but good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Like the PS said, this is our first technical meeting. We started in February, and I think we started. You couldn't have any other sponsor than Shell to kickstart this sponsorship, and I'm glad that Shell is here. And on that note, I want to start the recognition by recognizing the General Manager of Exploration for Shell Nigeria, Mr. Gogo Eneyok. He's here with us. And also, sitting next to Mr. Gogo Eneyok is going to be our adorable speaker, who very shortly, she's going to mount the stage to really give us what we need to hear. And that is Mrs. Eudorah Ochai-Audu. You're welcome. Before I go further, I think I also want to recognize my own NAPE boss, right? So that I don't get fired. And that is our dear President, Mr. Abiodun Ogunjobi, FNAPE. You're welcome. And also, just going in that order, next to him, by the right of the President, I want to recognize a past President, a fellow of NAPE, and a fellow of NMGS, Dr. Andrew Ejayarese. He was the former General Manager, Exploration, ExxonMobil. And then next to the President on the other side, I want to recognize a fellow of NAPE, and someone who very shortly you're going to hear the profile. So let me not open the bag yet until I read the profile. But coincidentally, he is also the chairman of today's event in the name of Dr. Emmanuel Enu. You're highly welcome. FNAPE. And then next to Dr. Emmanuel Enu is another distinguished fellow of this association in the name of Dr. Kunle Adeshida. You're welcome, sir. Now, if you move to the next table, is also heavyweights that are also on that table. And I think in the tradition of NAPE, for those that are seeing this for the first time, this is the thing we have to do, to recognize the fellows because of the commitment they've given to this association. And on that note, I want to recognize our own dear Bashir Kolede FNAPE, the CEO of Damatan. And next to him is our own dear Mr. Kano, popularly called KK FNAPE from Waib. You're welcome. And I know we have, many of you sitting in different places, but I think it might be worth mentioning as well, because some of you might see some folks in military uniform, and you're wondering, are we safe? I can tell you we are safe. They are members. Some of them are geophysicists, some of them are geologists, and they are from the Naval Hydrographical Unit of the Naval Units. So they're here with us. And I know we have a couple of people online. As of the last time we checked, I think probably about 45 or 50. So please let me know if there's any key person I need to recognize that is online, that is a fellow. And then, ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you're sitting, so I can't go around one by one. I really want to welcome you as well for this session. Now, I would introduce the chairman of the day. Oh, can I have the iPad? So I need to now introduce the chairman formally, who is going to direct us for the day. But before then, I think we need to take the president's opening remark. Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's correct. So I don't skip it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on stage our dear president, Mr. Ogunjobi Abiodun, president of NAPE. F. Nape to give us his welcome and opening remark. You're welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I will lean on the protocol established by the PE. I would like to formally, meet you for the first time in the year, and I'm sure there are some of us that we are seeing for the first time, wishing everybody Happy New Year. It's not too late to say Happy New Year, even in February. As we convene for our first technical meeting for 2024, I want to extend our heartfelt welcome to each one of you. Today marks the beginning of another exciting chapters in our journey toward fostering innovation, knowledge sharing, and best practices. So we do this all the time to develop our knowledge base within the E&P community. I'm also thrilled to express our gratitude to Share SPDC for their generous sponsorship of this program today. Their unwavering support to NAPE has enabled us with other companies that have been sponsoring our program to continue to do this, bringing together the best and brightest mind in the industry to share insights that we enrich our collective ability to do our business of finding oil and gas. Furthermore, it is great honor to also welcome our distinguished speaker today, Eudorah Ochai-Audu. Today, she will be sharing her knowledge and insight with us, and I'm sure that at the end of our presentation, we'll be able to be enlightened and undoubtedly be able to contribute to the discussions. And I would also like to appreciate the erudite panelists that we have here today. JB has mentioned their names, and I have no doubt that they'll be also be able to provide insight into the subject of discussion this morning. In addition, as we proceed into the program, please, as geoscientists, we want to keep in touch as an association. Please do well to update your membership with NAPE. We want to be able to reach out to everybody, but we find out that some of the information in the database are not up to date. So let me use this opportunity to join each and every one of us to update our information on the database so that as NAPE, we'll be able to serve you better. Thank you all for being here today. Let us make the most use of this opportunity to learn, share, and collaborate with one another as we bring a brighter future for our industry and also for our association. Thank you and welcome to NAPE Technical Meeting. Before I step down, during the past few weeks, we lost some of our fellows who ordinarily will have been here, whether physically or online, to join in this technical meeting. So I would like to enjoy each and every one of us to please rise as we share a 1-minute silence into their memory. Reverend Ochai-Audu Onshore, F. Nape, and Mr. Jasper Nwachukwu S. Nape. 1-minute silence, please. May the soul of the departed continue to rest in peace. Thank you very much, and please have a seat.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that opening remark. And when you get to somebody's house, if you're not welcome, then you'll be a bit jittery. But now the president has spoken, just feel relaxed and know that you are very comfortable for the rest of this morning into the early afternoon. Before we move on with the agenda, allow me to recognize other fellows of this association that have joined online already. We have Mrs. Adedoja Ojelabi, FNAPE. We have Mr. Jibola Oyebamiji, FNAPE. Mr. L.S. Taka, FNAPE. And by the way, all three of them, Mr. Ojelabi, Mr. Jibola, and Mr. L.S. Taka, are all past presidents as well. We have Professor C.S. Wajide, FNAPE. We have Mrs. Pat Marcelli, FNAPE. And we have Mr. Ehi Bazuai, FNAPE, and the Vice President of the Association. Can we give them a round of applause? They are all online. Thank you very much. Now, I want to introduce formally the chairman of this session, but before then, just to give a bit of insight, because what you notice today, those online and those in the room, is going to be slightly a bit different formats, and that's why you're seeing all these chairs we have here on the stage. We're going to be having two panelists join us who are fellows of this association. That is Dr. Andre Jerese, FNAPE, and former president of this association, and Dr. Kunle Adeshida, who is also FNAPE, and former, by the way, he is a former UAP chair, University Assistant Program chair. He was the first for this association. So two of them will come on stage, but that's going to be later on, after the presentation. But I'm going to welcome the chairman now to formally kickstart the program and introduce the speaker. And after the chairman, he will go back on his chair. Then after the presentation, we'll then bring back the chairman and the panelists on stage to join the speaker. So that's going to be the process. And on that note, I want to quickly introduce who our chairman will be, so that you also know. I know him quite well, but it's also good that I don't keep it to myself, that you know who he is. I know many of you will know as well. But Dr. Emmanuel Enu, FNAPE, actually graduated from the then University of Ife in 1974. That's many years ago. I'm sure some of you here probably were not born then. And he got his BSc honors degree in geology at the time, and later on went on to obtain PhD in sedimentology in 1978 from the University of Nice in southern France. After getting his PhD, he actually went into the academia. He started to lecture at the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, from 1979 up until 1991. And then he eventually left the academia as an associate professor of geology. And then when he then left, he now joined Shell, actually Shell Petroleum Development Company at the time, and started his career before he moved to SNEPCO as the pioneer staff, where he led a technical team that proposed and drilled the first Nigerian deep water well, the Bonga 1, which was the first giant deep water field discovery we have in this country. We started a production of about 200,000 barrels of oil per day. He also has many other deep water wells to his credit. He was the first African team lead in Shell Oil Company, Deepwater Center of Excellence in Houston, Texas, and later became the first Shell Nigeria Deepwater Exploration Manager in 2004. No surprise, Dr. Enu is known in the industry circle as Mr. Deepwater. So when you call him Mr. Deepwater, you can see where he's coming from because of the vast knowledge he's got around deepwater geology. Later on, when he retired from Shell, he moved on to join BG Group in 2008 as the first Nigeria General Manager Exploration. And later on in 2012, he was among the oil and gas professionals that established one of the leading independents in this industry we know today, the first Exploration and Petroleum Development Company, first E&P. And until 2021, he was the first Executive Director, Exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, if you come into NAPE Circle, Dr. Eno, actually some of you might not know, but he was a vice president of NAPE. That was in 1997. And then later on, he became the president in 2006, 2007. He's also served in various capacities, serving in advisory council for many years, but also in board of trustee as well. Dr. Eno is a fellow of NAPE and a recipient of the prestigious Arets Adam Award, which is the highest award bestowed by NAPE on our deserving earth scientists. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, welcome on stage Dr. Emmanuel Ifeanyichukwu Eno, F. NAPE. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As Dr. Eno is coming on stage, let me honorably recognize our own Sir Chike Onyejekwe, FNAPE, and the former Managing Director, SNEPCO. He's just joined us here. You're welcome, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Good morning. It's still morning. Let me stand on the existing protocols. Thank you for the introduction. I didn't know you were going to call all those as you mentioned. Now, today we are going to have an exciting presentation from somebody called her SPDC Queen. I saw that somewhere and I said, good. And I met you for the first time today. Eudorah, you are welcome. You are giving us the presentation today. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Geology from the University of Port Harcourt and a certified member of the Council of Nigeria Mining Engineers and Geosciences, as COMEC, and also holds a master's degree in Petroleum Geosciences from the University of London, where she bagged the Best Project Award in 2020-21 academic year. She's a thought leader, has 15 years of experience in the upstream sector. Currently, the Business Opportunity Manager, leading the onshore exploration strategy to grow feed gas for Shell Nigeria in the mid-long term. In this role, Eudorah leads the early integration of the end-to-end value delivery of prospective resources and the effective management of portfolio risk with consistent stakeholder engagement. Eudorah's passion is talent development with strong interest in career coaching and mentoring for young professionals and students. She's a strong advocate for continuous improvement, knowledge sharing, and work simplification using technology. I don't want to bore all of you with all the things she has written here, but she's very talented, who worked for Shell for very many years, and has chosen this topic today, value to value, which we call V2V, and the shift and what implication it has on exploration. See, all of us here are explorationists, and whatever anybody does in the value chain, it affects exploration. And the funny thing is, you are the first to drill the wells, you make the discovery, and they push you aside until they need more wells. So explorationists have to let them know that you are very important in this business. So Eudorah, can you come and tell us that? Thank you very much. Let us welcome her to the stage. More applause until she gets here.
Okay. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I feel so honored for this opportunity to speak at the first monthly technical and business meeting for NAPE this year. And I have a second reason for being honored. When you sit in a room and you see people that have achieved so much coming from where you're currently in and have gone beyond to do great things, I think the excitement and the pride you feel goes a notch higher. So thank you so much. And I'm really privileged to be here. This morning, I'm going to talk to you on the topic volume to value shifts and the implication for exploration. But before I do that, I want to first stand on existing protocol and also thank the leadership of NAPE, led by our own Abiodun Ogujobi, FNAPE. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And also to the President-elect and Chairman of the Continuing Education Program, Mr. John Bosco Uche. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I remember going to him one of those days to plead and negotiate for another speaker because I wasn't sure my legs will carry me by the time I mount this podium. But of course, he made it very easy. And he encouraged me and told me that it was something that was doable. So thank you so much. I also want to thank everyone that has made this possible, working behind the scenes, particularly Austin Beberi, whom I've known for about 10 years when we worked together on the NAPE YP platform and building it up to what it is now. Thank you so much. Finally, on my thank you list is thank you to Shell Nigeria for giving me this opportunity and allowing me present today. And I believe that I won't be here if there wasn't someone who believed in me and also made this happen. And he's no other person than my boss, the exploration manager, Shell Nigeria, Sir Gogo Eneyok. Please, ladies and gentlemen, with a rousing applause, please put your hands together and recognize. Thank you. Sagogo has maybe 32 years now of experience in the oil and gas under his belt. And there are a few people that are lucky to have a great boss. And I think I'm one of them. Thank you so much for the hand-holding and for all that you have done. Thank you. At the end of this presentation, just to say that I'm going to call on him to help me answer all the very difficult questions as well. So you will be seeing me call on him to answer those questions, and any other questions that you have specifically for Shell, he's also going to answer those. Thanks. So I think I will just run quickly into the presentation because I know that our precious time is already ticking. All right. Before I start, just a bit of caution and definitions. In this presentation, I've used a couple of terms. I've used some projections and forward-looking statements. Just to say that those statements and everything that you hear me say and present this morning are purely my own view and not representative of the views of Shell, as I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of Shell. That's one. And number two, all of the things I'm going to say today in terms of forward-looking projections are gotten from reports and analysis that have been done by very reputable organizations. And I have tried as much as possible to reference them in the areas where I have used them. So I will just go on to the next. So I'm going to speak to you a bit around what I have, categorized my thoughts into four major areas or four major buckets, if you like. And I would like to start from the top when we look at things at a macro level or a macro scale. And I'll be looking at the realities of what the new energy ecosystem is at the moment. And then I will go into what I believe are the three major things that are shaping exploration future. And then I'm going to give you just one case of why we need to explore for value. And then finally, give you suggestions on what strategies we could adopt going forward. Now, if we go into the realities of a new energy ecosystem, and I really do like this very bold statement that McKinsey made in their report of 2023. And that is just speaking to the fact that fossil fuels are projected to be the bridge for an orderly energy transition. And this is the bedrock that I want to anchor in our discussion this morning. And for us to be able to do that, I want to talk about, 4 broad topics. First, looking at the increase in energy demand, and then the energy transition, and something I find very interesting, which is the fossil fuel dynamics, and then most importantly, investments. And of course, because this is a business meeting, I'm going to be talking from the business side of things mostly. So if I go to the first one, in 2022, the global energy demand increased by 1.3%, despite all the energy crisis that we had and all the disruptions that we had experienced. Now, this came from the backdrop of some of the things that you already know. I'm not going to mention a lot of them. But we saw that even though we had the crisis, we also saw that there was an increase in energy demand, which means that there's still going to be energy demand, regardless. Now, the energy crisis have eased off, but then we still face the risk of further energy disruptions, because really we can't tell what is coming in the future. We can be going on all well and smooth, and everything is on the go, but then you can never tell what is going to come next. And because of that, we have also seen quite a few unsettled geopolitics happening here and there, and particularly the things going around the Middle East at the moment. And then most importantly, and I think this one affects a lot of us in the room, is the economy, the global economy, where we're seeing inflation, where we're seeing a lot of debts, where we're seeing a lot of borrowing happening. So a lot of turbulence still happening in that space. So that's the first bit. The next bit is on the energy transition itself. And as we speak, the average surface temperature is about 1.2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And remember, our target is 1.5. It means that we're so close. Now, we have experienced a lot. I don't know if some of you have experienced extreme heat in this period, and we are seeing extreme weather conditions as well. So these things are currently happening, and you can imagine that as long as we continue to feel these things, the push for energy transition into cleaner energy will still be there, and it will still go strong. Now, what is going to enable all these things to go on, as quickly and as a pace that has been projected, will be technology. Now, the next one, and I told you I really find this very interesting, it's around the fact that we have declining fossil fuel growth, and this is recorded in all the analysis and projections that I have researched. Now, at the backdrop of that, we still find that there is still need for natural gas. In fact, natural gas is going to play a very critical role in the whole energy mix, and that is settled, if you understand what I mean. And we have seen that this go on in terms of the surge in the number of LNG projects that we see across the world. In fact, a couple of projects are coming on from 2025 and beyond. So that means that natural gas is still going to play a vital role. And for that, you already see a lot of the industry majors are beginning to polarize, and they're beginning to refocus their energy on that. Now, the big one, and the final one, the big one, is there has been a 40% increase in investment for clean energy. 40% since 2020. What that means is that people are actively investing in clean energy. And we have seen a reduction in express investment for exploration projects. There's a reduction, and I'm going to speak to that in the next slide. And then finally, there has been no funding, absolutely no funding from our financial institutions for new oil and gas projects. So all these things are the dilemmas and things that we're actually facing, and these are the realities. And it's just something I want us to have at the back of our minds as we go on in this conversation. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and then I'm going to tell you, deep dive a bit more into what I think will be the three things, and of course from literature as well, what are the key three things that are shaping exploration future. The first thing is profitability. Absolutely no one will go into any exploration if you're not clear on how profitable that is going to be. That's the first. The next one is whatever projects on exploration we're going to be having will ensure that we do have sufficient reduction in terms of emissions. And then finally, the search is now on looking for remaining resources that are within proven and frontier basins. Now, there are a couple of things that you can see, and if you look at the plots on the slide, you begin to see clearly, a lot of the trends. And then, of course, those trends come in from as early as the 2000. And what you see on this trend, and particularly if you focus your eyes on the last decade, which will be from sometime in 2013 all the way down, you begin to see, a pattern. Now, this first portion here is where we experience our oil price crash that happened sometime in 2014 or thereabouts. And then you could actually begin to see the response in terms of the wells that were drilled, new field YCATs, NFW wells that were drilled. You can see the dip, very clear and visible. And then after that, we picked up quite a bit. But this time, we picked up quite differently. When it picked up differently. We focused our attention on how quickly we can monetize whatever opportunities that we're bringing on the table. And that is where the focus of this conversation is going to go. Now, it is obvious that there is a reduced risk appetite. I mean, you can already tell because companies are beginning to even sidestep exploration. What that means is that they can actually go ahead and produce from their mature field without actually doing any exploration. So, I mean, that is a given. We already see that's happening. And on the backdrop of that, we have quite a number of other fields that are stranded. And what do I mean by stranded? They don't have material, they are not material enough to support standalone development projects. So we discovered a field and it's somewhere we can't get it close to any facility or infrastructure. And so it's just there, waiting to be developed, but of course, not material enough to be able to go ahead. And then all of this happening, for me, the real question or the real focus is that we are racing against time. And this time that we're racing against is the time where we do have the little window that we have for the remaining investments that are going to happen versus, whether or not we're going to enter another energy crisis that will cause an overturn of everything. But we don't know, right? But we have a little window to be able to go ahead with all this. Now, the big question, and this has been what has played in my mind even when I got into exploration, is how will exploration play knowing all of this and all of these things and challenges that are happening? And if you know very well, whenever there is challenge, it means that there is room and there is opportunity for us to be able to play in. Now, the first thing and some of the things that came through to my mind is that for us to be able to successfully, bring exploration back to a place where we do have value or see value, we have to be able to have a clear path to the market. And then if you see the cartoon that goes all the way from, being able to, apologies for that, please. For us to be able to explore, we need to be able to explore and then take it to the market in the midstream and then finally to the end users. All right. Yeah, thanks. Now, a couple of questions to ask. Number one is, how are we able to attract investments, whether they are local investments, whether they are foreign investments, and how are we able to attract funding as well for exploration projects? I mean, it's something that the panelists could touch on when they come up stage, but it's something for us to think about and something that has really troubled my mind quite a bit. And how much longer? We do see that industry majors are really into exploration, maybe not in Nigeria actively, but in other places in Africa and other parts of the world. But for how much longer will they be there? That's another question. The third question is, how will exploration respond to the looming supply deficiency? Because definitely there is some part that, and I'm going to show you in the next slide, where there is this supply deficiency. So how are we going to respond and respond quickly? And then finally, is there a compelling case for us to actually get the exploration value from not just opportunities that are less risky, but actually play into very risky opportunities with higher reward? Of course, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. Are there opportunities for those? Some things that I think we should think about as I go on to the next slide. So I'm going to just share one case for us to explore for value. You had seen in the previous slide where I talked about increasing in LNG projects from about 2025. And then that is now opening up pathways for us to be able to look into the portfolio and see if there are opportunities that could actually backfill these assets. Now, one of these opportunities, like I'm going to talk about here, is one of those gas plants where we do see that in the short term, and this short term I'm talking about to sometime between now and 2026, 27, we will have sufficient resources, discovered resources, to be able to meet up all the demands, or the plan for to fill the gas plant. However, beyond that, and that is as early as 2028, we don't see that anymore. The discovered resources that we have at the moment is not sufficient to be able to fill that gap. And what are the things that we can do to be able to do it? The major thing that we can do is to start exploration early, and not just to start exploration early, to be able to start the exploration and get the first gas such that it's able to meet up and fill up this gap that we see in sometime in 2028. So that will be the challenge that we have in our hands. What it means is that we have to check out the opportunities, the ones that are more profitable, the ones that are more, the ones that we would, spend less cost to be able to achieve that, and go for it. Now, what is the biggest lesson that we have learned? Is that why wait till we get to this point where we're in a hurry to do anything exploration? If we can actually sit back and say, are there things that we can proactively do now for us not to be in this sort of situation, and what can we do to get there. And so the final point, and which will be my final slide, will be, what are those things that we can do? What are those actions that we can take? And don't get me wrong, there is so much uncertainty. Uncertainty about the future, uncertainty on whether this is actually the end of fossil fuel, or are we actually at the beginning of another cycle? We will never know. But one thing that we can do as explorationists is that we can prepare. And one of the ways we can prepare is that we can maximize the use of our existing infrastructure to be able to backfill, and close the gap in terms of supply to prevent any further declines. That's number one. And then the second thing that we can do is that we can drill more risky wells, but that depends on how much risk appetite that we're going to have. And then also focusing on how quickly we are able to convert our discovered resources into money. Before now, we could explore and develop later. Right now, you want to explore and be sure that you will get the money within 5 to 10 years and not more. Next is, what attractive terms and conditions are we giving to new acreages to enable us explore and be able to enable ease of operations? So ease of operations, attractive terms and conditions to attract people and investors to come in and invest some money into exploration for us to be able to meet our supply. And then finally is around redefining our partnerships and collaborations. I mean, it's good to do everything yourself, but sometimes maybe you just need to look around to say, who can I partner with? Who can come on board? Or who can I collaborate with to be able to achieve some things? So these are some of my thoughts, and these are some of the things that I would like the panelists to, sit down and brood over, and then open questions for people in the room and online as well to be able to interact and talk about. So thank you very much for listening to me. I want to acknowledge the JV partners, NNPC, Total Energies, ENI, and Shell, for this opportunity for speaking to you on this topic. And we will now take the next steps. Thank you very much.
You're going nowhere. You stay here. All right. Another round of applause to our speaker, Eudorah Ochai-Audu. All right. So we're going to be talking business. But before, I won't let her go. So I think, if you don't mind, I'll ask you to take, the last seat and then stay here on stage. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a new initiative we're trying to bring in. And let's see how it goes. Now we've listened to Eudorah, we've listened to, Shell speaking as well. Well, I know she didn't speak on behalf of Shell, but, as the speaker from the company, we will now hear other views in the room, right? We need to hear other views, and our fellows are getting more involved in this, with the experience they have in the industry to share their views. And I will now call them on stage, starting with our chairman, who I earlier introduced, who is also going to manage this session, starting with a summary, and then, of course, his own view as well. Dr. Emmanuel Ifeanyichukwu Enu FNAPE. Please come on stage. So he's our chairman for today, but not just being the chairman, we also want to hear his view. I'm sure he has a view. And then joining Dr. Enu on stage is going to be Dr. Andrew Ejeriese. FNAPE, FNMGS, and former president of NAPE. Please come on stage as well. We will want to hear your view. I know you are the former ExxonMobil GM, but I think you have an idea how they do it in ExxonMobil as well. So I would like to get that view. And then also our dear Dr. Kunle Adeshida, FNAPE, who is also the Prince of the Universe. Yeah. And CEO Geoterrain. Please come on stage as well. By the way, he was in Shell some time ago. I don't know how many of you know. So it's good to have your view as well on this topic. And for some reason, they also have me around. I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to sit with them just to make sure that everything is going okay. You're welcome, sir. So on this note, I will hand over to the chairman to now take us through before we come to the Q&A. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Thank you very much. I think Eudorah deserves another round of applause. She's done a very good job. And also, she's coming from Shell. Like I told you, you were named SPDC Queen. So you can't, oh, Mr. Jibala named you. Yeah, where you were talking, I made some notes about your views. And then, I have with me here some panelists. My Prince of the Universe, who is also ex-Shell. Today is Shell Day, okay? And then I have a former president, Andrew. I would have called him ex-Shell because everybody here is Shell. But he happens to be ExxonMobil, but ExxonMobil and Shell are together. So we can for today call you Shell. Then when you go down from this stage, you can wear your ExxonMobil cap. Yeah. Thank you for that presentation. Like I said when I was introducing you, exploration is not easy. You are in the forefront, and when you finish your discovery, you are pushed aside. I remember when I used to be a team lead exploration. And then it was easy to drill exploration wells because the prospects are there, not now that you don't find them again. You have to really look deep to find those, I want to call them big cats, this is Shell terminology, to find those big prospects. And when you finish drilling wells, you want to appraise those wells, drill so many wells to appraise, and then go on to development and so on. One thing I found difficult then was that when you finish your discovery, the development team wants to take what you have discovered. Even they want to drill your first appraisal well. I know I didn't agree those days when we finished Bonga well, and they wanted to drill the first appraisal well, and I said no. I know Chike is laughing there. So we decided to drill the first appraisal well, and then when it was getting to the second appraisal well, I think a new appraisal team was formed so that these issues will stop. And after your exploration wells, with time, especially when you have made your discovery and you start producing, it becomes very difficult for you to have funding to drill more exploration wells. One thing we also remember is that you are not the only country the company is looking at to drill those wells. And if your well does not stand among those those projects that your company have for the next year, you are actually competing with other projects. So if your project does not rank high, you push it down. So these days, I think it is now been getting difficult to get funding to drill exploration wells. That's where the value comes in. It's not the volume they're looking at, it is the value now that they want. But managers forget that the value that you have can only last for a while. When it starts declining, you look back. Where are these new discoveries? You've not drilled exploration wells again, and so there will be a gap. And it takes time for your discovery to move from that discovery to that value. She was telling us about 5 to 10 years. I remember Bonga was discovered in 1995. First oil was in 2005. That's about 10 years. So we forget that you shouldn't stop drilling exploration wells. You need to keep drilling those exploration wells so that you have to backfill your production. If your production drops and you don't have exploration wells, what companies do now is they look around, they want to acquire more blocks, acquisition comes in, and then merger comes in because there's now a gap. You need about 5 to 10 wells for your new discovery to go into your production, your creaming curve. If you were here during NAPI in November, Dr. Jedawe gave a presentation, and he showed us the creaming curve, and that thing was getting flat. The deep water wells brought it up, and it went flat. And the Nigerian exploration is for 40 billion barrels reserve and 4 million production per day. In the room there, everybody said, this is not possible. Now, if where you are now and you have your creaming curve to be flat, what we're expecting is that you want to spike it up again so that it doesn't come down. And to spike it up, you need more wells. But the exploration wells are not there. It will take some more years to spike it up. When it starts declining, you don't have the wells to fill up the space. So the problem now is you now start looking. Businessmen is the money. That's the value we're talking about. It's the money that they want on the spot. But when you get that money and the thing is declining, you are looking for more money. So you look around, you don't find exploration wells. And companies are not ready to drill exploration wells now because there are many other things that are competing for those exploration wells. So what she is saying, where are these exploration wells? How long will it take for you to drill exploration wells and become valuable? What she has said and what I know, it takes minimum of 5 years, depending on what it is, and it could go up to 7 to 10 years. So what do we really do? During NAPI conference, and what we all know, the wells that we have drilled today have TDs. Have we tested all those areas below the TDs? What I always say, you have to be bullish at times. I've looked at the seismic in some places. What you have below is transparent seismic, and people are afraid to deepen. thinking that if you deepen, you have overpressure and there will be problems. So management don't usually like to support that. But you need to do very good pressure work because it might not be overpressure. But if you have good pressure work, then it might be that you need to change your rig from 10K to 15K to be able to drill deeper. You need to drill deeper. Below those transparent levels, you have some, I call it music below. And in deep water areas, even onshore, shallow water, you have some turbidites below. If Chibola is listening to me, we've done this argument before. You will need to drill deeper. I usually try to suggest, if one company cannot drill deeper because it's expensive, because of the fear of overpressure, 2 or 3 companies can come together, let us test it. We'll call it a stratigraphic well. You test it and see exactly what you have there. If you test it and it goes well, that below those transparent level, you have turbidites, then that's a game changer. So we need to be bullish, go below the present TD, so as to make more discoveries. Like she said, and you have to do that now. If you want to get more gas, like she said, if you want to have more oil, and don't allow your flat creaming curve to go down and decline. Rather, we expect the flat creaming curve to spike and go up. And we have those things in Nigeria. Let me not take too much of your time, because I have able men here who also want to share their views. We'll start with Andrew. I'll come back again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to make a couple of contributions, and I'm going to segment it into the individual role and responsibility, the company role, and I'll look at the regulatory. But before I do that, I want to take our minds back that the environment that we live in has changed tremendously. The environment has changed tremendously. So in our days, we go to the university and we just acquire a degree in geophysics and geology and all is fine, right? But I can tell you these days, if you just have a degree in geology and geophysics, without a complementary financial aspect of that degree, all is not fine. Because the environment that we are in has changed. So take your mind back to the Nigerian oil and gas industry. In the early days, I was just having a chat with Dr. Eno when we were in the waiting room. When you look at the hierarchy of the industry, majority of the senior people in the industry were geoscientists. Cast your mind back to NNPC in the early days, Shell, Mobil, before it became ExxonMobil, Gulf, before it became Chevron. Maybe some of you don't know about Gulf. It used to be Gulf before Chevron. You look at the hierarchy of those industries in the early days, the pioneers who were the real at the forefront of driving those industries. Majority of them were geoscientists. We sent to the board, they made those decisions. Exploration was easy. They can push for decisions and get approval. So if you look at the hierarchy over time, we are not competing with engineers for those positions. I don't know how many geoscientists you even have in the board of the oil and gas companies anymore. We are competing with lawyers, with due respect. We are competing with accountants. We are competing with HR managers in the helms of affairs of the decision of an oil and gas industry. So whether you like it or not, there is a big clouding of judgment on really what the oil and gas industry is. Those people don't understand what risk means. The average engineer looks at 1 + 1 is 2. But in the geoscience community, 1 + 1 is not 2. It's a case of probability. We deal with probabilities, we deal with uncertainties, but those languages are strange to them. So things have changed. So what can we do? Because at the end of the day, you must be able to make a case for your company to drill your exploration well. That's the bottom line. No matter how hard you try, if the exploration well is not approved, you're not going to drill it. It is only when you have drilled it, then begin to talk about, say, I'm going to produce it. So as an individual, I would say we've been pushing as an association to try to bring some commercial aspect into our geoscience program in the universities. So I would say pick up interest in some economics, risk analysis, learn them, so that when you are making your maps, because we speak in maps, right? As geoscientists, we talked about depth map, thickness map, porosity map, permeability map. Those are the languages that we speak. And then when you make your map and you want to drill your exploration well, you talk about your probability. Okay, and then you say, okay, this is my most likely case. If things are bad, it can be lower. If things are very good, it can be higher. Now, those terminologies, they don't understand it. They don't understand it. So you must get some commercial knowledge to be able to push your case a little bit further. It's not just enough for you these days to just make your maps. And then you go there, you are talking technical. Learn to be talking a little bit of commercial as well. So that when those engineers come and they are pushing, you can also stamp your foot, and make some of those commercial analysis cases. So that's the dynamics that we are in. You will be sitting on those rooms, you have HRO people, you have accountants, you have lawyers, and probably you might have, if you are lucky, you have your exploration manager there with you, or maybe a technical advisor to help push your case. So it becomes very difficult. Now, on the company role, I just nipped or two. You find out that I don't know how many companies right now really have very senior managers in exploration department. You remember we used to have it in those days. We have very big exploration departments, and then it went down, and the exploration was folded into production, and then an exploration manager will be reporting to an engineer. I mean, these are real-time facts. I went through it, and then later died the cycle, they opened it up again, and then they brought the exploration department to come stay on his own. Just before I retired, about 3 years ago, I know it happened. If you look at all the companies, the exploration department is dwindling. They are shrinking them. One of my biggest jobs before I left was actually managing my employee morals, because they were feeling that there was really nothing out there for them. Okay? So we need to employ a lot of technology. I know in the acquisition cycle, we've tried as much as possible to fast-track acquisition. Only very few companies do 2D seismic these days. Most of them are 3D, so we have the volume there. Because of the push of early production, again, we were doing, in my company, I don't know about others, we're doing what we call early delivery volumes. You go to the processing center, normally you want to process, finish everything, test, and get the final volume. But because of the pressure of time, we're doing what we call 60-70% solution. Give me an early delivery volume in order to satisfy the appetites of the organization. So when that volume comes, your interpreters will be interpreting that while they are waiting for the final volume to come. We did all that to try to shorten the cycle of exploration. But with technology now, a lot of the manual things that we used to do those days, we can automate them. So we must be technology savvy as an explorationist, because the bottom line is you must push for your case. Nobody's going to do it for you. So you must be technology savvy. What are those technologies that you can apply in your exploration processes? Mainly processing, interpretation, to fast-track your analysis. Things that you normally do maybe for 6 months, you do them in 1 month to get those analyses there, and then be able to go and do your quantification early and present your case to make it easy. in the past 6-7 years, even before, when you look at the industry, we were not really doing exploration. We were not drilling exploration wells. The reason being that because the company were pushing so much for value-driven wells, most of those wells that we're drilling, in the real sense, they are near field wildcats. They are not really exploration wells. Most of them are near field wildcat. So people don't really step away down deep, far away from producing well to really do exploration well because of these value-driven issues. So it is not new, it is cyclical, but employ technology as much as possible to help compress those cycles so that your interpretation can come out early. Then we still have to talk to our regulators. They also have a role to play. Are the scientists that we have right now are really enough? I don't think so. Because if the scientists on exploration well does not look attractive to the organization, no matter how hard you push, as long as they don't see priority on the other side, it will also be difficult. And I know also NNPC, our new DPRO, they are a member of NAPE, so they need to look at the portfolios. What additional incentives can we put in there to encourage exploration well? Seismic acquisition, you need to go for longer cables. I know people are shooting 12 now, but we can go to 18, we can go to 20, especially in the deep water if we can. Land seismic, I don't know how much we've done, but I know for OBCs, you can lay your cable as far as you can, shoot longer cables. Like he's saying, beyond certain levels, the seismic are very transparent. It's because you don't have those reflections there. So you really need to go back and shoot longer seismic, long cables, so that you can image deeper and be able to really bring those reflections there, collapse them to be able to show the images. In concluding, let me talk about transition of fossil fuel, renewable energy. I've been in this argument. This phase will pass. That's what I always say. Because even if you look at the solar energy sector, yes, it's having a lot of investment. Where are those investments going in? Investment in batteries, investment in solar panels. Have you asked yourself, those solar panels and those batteries, the constituents of those batteries, where do they come from? The phones that you are holding, 70% of the components that you have there, they are from hydrocarbon. Up to about 80 or 90% of the constituents of batteries, go check them out. They are products of hydrocarbons. So where would they get them from? Because they can cry all out. The cars that they are, people are recharging cars. When you go to where they are recharging those cars, where does the power come from? If it's from electricity, the generating source of those electricity, where is it from? Gas, in most cases. You can sow hydro, but majority of them are from gas. So you still need to exploit for gas as an explorationist. So it's just a question of time. You can make the huge investment as much as you can. I don't think hydrocarbon will go away. It will still continue to remain a very big chunk of the energy mix. So those are my views, and I'll pass the touch on. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The presenter, thank you for the presentation. Very brisk and also very thorough. Just for me, my other colleague have spoken extensively on technology, on models, but I just want to deal with attitude and training. And this is very important where we're working. One, we're talking about volume to value shift. What is volume? What is value? Each and every one of them, of the two, plays an important part in exploration or development aspects. In a very simple way, volume to value is more of reducing costs while improving quality of what you are producing and increasing productivity. What has happened in the past for most explorers is that we are very descriptive, and we need to change from descriptive way projecting our views in a very prescriptive manner. We need to be more assertive. What people want to hear from you is, I can do it, and this is going to be the value. And that is the training of an engineer. And that is what has happened in many companies today. When I joined Shell, we, in exploration, we were following what they call the function model. That is, the explorers are employed in exploration while the engineers are in engineering department. But by 1992, things changed, and they call it asset, in which you have the mix of the functions. So you as an explorer, while you are preparing your well or you are in the laboratory, you're also speaking with the production geologists from development or engineering guys from service engineering. So you have an idea of what his scope of work is, as well as his responsibility and deliverable on that project. So that has changed in Shell, that model of function to asset, and that has helped us. I never worked in any other company except Shell. And one thing that has happened in Shell, similarly, is the training, and that is my fear. Our indigenous company now should also start thinking of sending their staff on cross-posting. Interaction is very important. You see a lot of things, you imbibe it, you'll be able to solve so many other problems which you are not even taught. So one of those things that I can see, we should move away from descriptive to prescriptive. If you go to your medical doctor, he will never describe anything for you. At the end of the day, he has collected all your data, and what does he give to you? It's a prescription. And go to the pharmacy. That is the way I can see our geoscientists. Just like Dr. Enu said, there are a lot of models that you can work with. Areas that you have not tested, deep prospects, depending on the age of that deeper prospect, do you have different type of flow stand system track? Is it as a result of turbidite or mud flow, or you have stratigraphic structures there? It's part of this training. But not that people are running away from it. We must, right from now, take it as a thing for all explorers. We should move away from being descriptive to being prescriptive in what we're doing. The other aspect is when we talk about the success of whatever we want to do, we have to take into consideration the issues in our country. One, what is the budget for exploration vis-a-vis the budget for development wells, exploration and appraisal wells? Over the years, the max exploration and appraisal gets is 15 to 13% of the budget. And what goes to development is about 83 to 87%. You ask yourself, why that? And that is why we're talking about volume to value. This volume to value, as far as we are concerned, it is not a new thing. It is also reinventing the wheel. And that is where we've seen Shell discover Oloibiri 1956. 1 year after, they were producing that well. That is, by 1957, 1958, Oloibiri started production. Afam, Bomu, all in Ogoni land. Why can't we do it today? That is value to volume. We're looking for quick win, low-hanging fruits, training, commitment, prescriptive in your life. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I think my role on this is going to be simple. I'm not going to go in the direction the other panelists have gone. I want to come from the NAPE perspective, just to say, as the president-elect and the chairman continuing education program, our duty, working with the president and other ESCO, is to continue to provide platform for this kind of conversation. And what we also want to do is that we don't end the conversation in this way. It's also to push it to where we can begin to effect it. And that's why just only last month, the president and the other ESCOs, including myself, were in Abuja at the National Assembly to engage the lawmakers. So all these ideas we're hearing right now, what we need to do, I know I've heard regulators, the fiscal policies, is our duty as NAPE to provide the platform and then push for it. And I think that commitment, we already, just to be rest assured that is there. With the president and other ESCOs, we'll continue to bring these ideas, and in the coming months, all the things that have been discussed, we'll make sure we push it and get something out of it. So I just want to leave it here, Mr. Chairman, and then back to you now. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, co-panelists, and thank you, presenter. I'm just looking through what I made when you were presenting. There are some questions you asked. I'm going to read them out so that those who are online and those in the hall, if there are people that want to talk in that direction, can also do so. He said, how quickly can we monetize new discoveries? He also mentioned that some fields are stranded. They are not too close to infrastructures. So what do you do? What are the suggestions? He also asked, how do we attract investments? That's funding. She also mentioned that we should start exploration early. What makes you to start exploration early? I wrote there, you need good data and so on. It's also encouraged that we should drill more risky wells. That's what I mentioned. Don't stop at the top. Pressures are too high, and so you don't want to deepen. We should learn to deepen our exploration wells. But you mind the pressures. You can change your rig if you want to deepen. And then talked about acquisition, new acreages. Acquisition is quite easy because those are the low-hanging fruits. Those ones have gone far. Maybe they are producing already. You want to buy that company. So instead of you to go and drill exploration wells, you buy the company is already producing, you just keep producing. I used to ask some questions. I remember when I'm interviewing some people, I said, somebody has just bought a new company. They gave him a marginal field, and he borrowed money from the bank. He wants to make money. He wants to start making money almost immediately. And so he's looking for somebody to employ, a geologist to employ. Now, the first geologist goes to him. He says, you need about 5 to 6 years or more to start making money out of this. He says, sorry, no, I don't need you. He needs somebody who will tell him that in the next 1 year, you start making money. That's not the way to do it. You tell that man, an Alaji or a big man, that, sorry, if you want to make good money out of this, you need to do A, B, C, D, and it will take so many years. And you tell him exactly all the things that you have to do to put in place. But those people don't want to hear that. It is quick money. I will throw it up to the floor now for questions and answer session. I don't know who has the microphone there. Yeah, so if you have a question, signify, raise your hand, and then ask your question. First, from the presentation, and next, from what you heard from the panelists. And if it's possible for our PE, I don't know, to collect 1 or 2 questions from those online, you can also do so. Questions? Yes, there's somebody there.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Bashir Kolidoye, MD of Damatan, Nigeria. My questions are like 4 in 1. Eudorah, thank you for the presentation. So I kind of noticed that the majority of the views in that presentation are global, more or less. And I was wondering if you had thought about, or you could tell how these issues relate to Nigeria. Who is investing? Who are the people investing? I mean, you said banks are not, funding exploration. So who are the people that are investing? You also talked about the energy dynamic globally again. What's it like in Nigeria? Because I know, for example, that the development of solar alternative energy in Nigeria is way behind, what it is globally. So what's the dynamic like in Nigeria? Then, okay, so I asked this before, and particular about it. Funding, of course, is the biggest issue when it comes to exploration or energy development. So where are those funds going to come from if the banks are not investing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good questions. When I put the slides together, I actually thought, oh, what about Nigeria? But I didn't want to make it just a Nigerian conversation. I wanted us to actually look at it from a more global perspective so that we know that it's not just a Nigerian problem, but it's also a global problem that we have. So that's why you see that a lot of the views come from global perspective. However, there are a couple of things that are specific to Nigeria, and some of it you already know. And you asked the question around who are the people investing? And what I found was that people that are actually at the forefront of investing in exploration globally are the majors at the moment. There are others, but the major exploration wells that have been drilled and the finds that we had, at least in the last decade, were spearheaded by the majors, Exxon, Total, Shell, and the likes. Now, they are the ones that are leading exploration. And that's why I asked the question, they are leading now, but for how long? Are we going to have people or local companies that will step up into that space? Or maybe not. Are we thinking in that direction as to when do we, have our local companies come in and take the lead in some of these things? That's number one. Number two, around the financial institutions. Again, the big banks. Barclays on the 9th of February just announced that they're not going to be funding any new oil and gas project. And you know where that is coming from. That is coming from the pressure of the energy transition. That is coming from the pressure for the demand of cleaner energy. And of course, if you want to be in business, you have to understand what the trend is, and you have to align with the trend, or you'll be out of business. And so a lot of the banks, where we will get those funding from, are no longer supporting oil and gas projects. And so what do we do? I believe, and this is my own view, that we need to think differently on how we get funding. Could we actually begin to think locally? Can we look into Africa to see what else can we do? Can we look at policies? You know, I'm not sure that all those people are in the room, but it's just something for us to think about. And if we do have those opportunities to talk about them, you know, look in that direction as well. And a lot of the Nigerian discussion, you know, comes from the sphere of how easy is it for an investor to come into the country, do his investment, make profit, and continue to make profit and continue to remain. At the moment, a lot of uncertainties. And what that means is that the appetite for someone to come in and invest in Nigeria is reduced. And so if you look at some of the reports that have come, particularly for Nigeria, Nigeria has the most risk in terms of investment in oil and gas projects. So I'm just going to leave it here. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to allow the panelists, and of course my boss is also here to, you know, throw some lights if he would like to do that, but I will just give it.
Before I hand over the microphone to them, funding is an issue, but the good thing is that our banks in Nigeria now have energy departments. They have oil and gas departments. So some of them understand exactly what we're saying now. And if you can all remember, banks have started some years back now attending our NAPE conference. Yeah. And so it's not new to them when you go to them, ask for funding. Nigerian banks are funding some projects, but I'm not saying that Nigerian banks are funding exploration wells. It's a bit difficult to fund exploration wells only, sensu stricto. You have to fund a project. Maybe within the project in that company, you can bring in some exploration. But IOCs, like if you want to drill exploration well in your company in Nigeria, you have to write some notes, and then you go back to your home country, your home office. And in your home office, they're not going to just look at what you're asking for. They are now going to throw it into the basket and see how it ranks with other companies globally. If it ranks, then you are lucky it's funded. So funding is not easy, but it's possible. And Nigerian banks are beginning to fund projects. At least I know of some of them. And the good thing also is that you have energy departments in these banks. So it's easy for them to understand all the terminologies that you speak. Anything?
Yes, thank you, sir. So just a couple of contributions for me, just to follow up from where they said that if you fund a project, you can also creatively, like I said, include exploration in this project. Now, we used to have some practice. You can also be creative. You can drill an exploration well and keep it as a production well. I don't know how many people do that. We did a couple. Sometimes it could be challenging with the regulators when it used to be DPRO, but we did convince them. It took time so that when you design the exploration well, it's a little bit more risky, because if you don't find what you are looking for, you would have actually spent more on some completion. So you need to balance all that. So when you design your exploration well, you actually prepare for completion of the exploration well. I know we did a couple of you. Once you finish drilling the well and the well is successful, you go in there and you complete the well and you keep it for production. That way, you can also help fast track getting money to the, because at the end of the day, you are looking at how quickly can money start coming in. So like I said, you make those designs. You don't spend the completion money if you don't make discovery, but you plan for it, you get all the budgetary approval. As soon as you drill the exploration well and you make enough discovery that I think is commercial, you go ahead and you complete it with all the jewelries and you keep it. So it becomes very easily to open up that well and start making some money. I do know also that in the current PIA, maybe I'm wrong, there's a provision for Frontier Exploration Fund. There's a provision for Frontier Exploration Fund. And I want to beg of the regulatory agency, let us utilize those funds. Because I talked about what regulators can also do. The money is there, let us utilize those funds to do some frontier exploration. And once, especially those ones that are very risky, so that they can de-risk some of those very highly risky exploration prospects so that other people can easily come in. So let's take advantage of those funds. And I'm sure if we utilize them well, once they have the risk, all those high risks, some other people will quickly catch in and also be able to have higher confidence of drilling some of their wells. Thank you.
Okay, to save time, we have some questions online. So we'll take 2 questions online and 2 more questions from the hall here. So any other question from the room? I have one there, I have one there. Oh, that's one. You have the microphone already. Okay. Okay, ask your question quickly. Not 2 questions, not 3 questions, just one.
Good afternoon, everyone. I actually have 2 questions, but I'll just limit it to one for the sake of time. Dr. Andrew F. Nape, you said something very critical, which has been a challenge okay, my name is Ifeanyi Kweze, I work with Halliburton. You made mention of technology, and of course, there's no longer free oil. And the risk here, the opportunity, which means we need to look at the technology to make life easy for us. And I can speak for my company, we have been able to have some innovative technology. And most time when you go to these companies to engage them in conversations on how this technology can help them, to deliver value, with respect to time. Yeah, the funny thing is that even the geologists and explorers are a bit they're a bit reserved. Sometimes they don't want to listen to you. They will feel that maybe the technology is taking over their jobs and stuff like that. So the question is how do we, educate ourselves more for us to understand the impact of this technology in line with today's conversation? Because the reality is that we cannot run away from the current trend. The speaker said something about if you don't follow, if you are forgetting, you said something previous that I think escaped my mind now. If you are not in line with whatever that is going on now, you are off. So if you don't follow the technological advancement in areas where we are pushing, to make our job easier, then you fall out of line. So please, what can we do to educate ourselves to realize that this technology is to help our job, to help us do better, deliver value, and also with respect to time? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pardon? Yeah, okay, we note that. Somebody has a question. There's one person at the back there. So 1, 2, and then we'll go online.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amara Odebu, geoscientist at DG Connect Nigeria Limited. Thank you very much, Mrs. Eudorah. During your presentation, you mentioned that gas would always be of relevance. So my question is, what happens to our oil? Do we leave it the way we left coal in Enugu? in Enugu State. Is Nigeria really ready for this transition? Thank you.
Quickly, one question and then one question.
Okay, my name is Lieutenant Commander Uzech from Nigerian Navy. Madam Eudorah, thank you for your presentation. And mine is a kind of contribution and question at the same time. So we've been with this fossil fuel for long. And if you look at the US, they are transitioning to electric vehicle fully by 2035. So which is less than 10 years from now. And with what that means is by then, we will have less demand for our crude and everything. And so I was looking at, we can build that capacity for deep sea mining. Where we talk about manganese and cobalt. So because these are the things, and lithium used in making these batteries. So if you start channeling our energy towards that side by this time, we could go a long way. And then talking about alternative sources of energy too, it's not bad for us to start investing in wind farms to also start generating our own energy so that we can run away from this fossil fuel, which has huge effects on climate change. Thank you.
Last question from the room. Your name?
Thank you very much. My name is KK. I'm Kano. I currently work for Hawaii. You know, this issue of transition, Africa needs to have a perspective. So yes, and how much of the global warming is Africa contributing? About 4% or even less. So we need to look at things from our own angle. What are the needs of Africa? I'm not saying Nigeria. Look at it at that continental level, Africa coming together. And then our regulators in the different countries need to play an important part. Let me just take one part for NUPRC in Nigeria. There are several deep opportunities which are left undrilled. If those opportunities, I'm talking about places where you already have fields, you already have producing facilities. If only we would go back to what we did in the late 80s and 90s, where there was an exploration bonus for actually truly adding resources. There was reductions in taxes that obtained then and bonuses. Those things were switched off because companies were falsifying. We are doing things that were not truly exploration and expecting to get benefits. Let's not run. When people are trying to cheat, you don't run away from what is good. You try to stop the cheating. Things like that need to happen. And then look, when you look at demand for energy, it has been going up. It's not going down. It's going up. The role for oil and gas will always be there. Yes, the alternatives will increase in terms of their percentage, but in terms of the total volume for oil and gas, I tell you, up to 2050, it will still keep on increasing. Those other sources, solar, yes, they have their part. Wind, they have their part. But oil and gas would always be there. And with gas increasing far more than oil. The young lady asked about oil. If your studies is about oil, what you do is about oil, keep on doing it. It will keep on being there. Because of time, let me stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right, online. The first, we have a question from, maybe like a comment from Mr. Awo-Yawu. What the chairman is talking about is exactly the plan we adopted at NEPL, OML 13 redevelopment, as we are about to commence full production in a few weeks. I am the asset manager. We have, within the last 2 years, drilled 4 exploration wells, 5 appraisal wells, and 23 development wells, and plan to drill more exploration and appraisal wells in the coming years for more discoveries. We also have another question from Idris Taiwo. Do we need regulation to set aside a portion of production revenue to fund exploration within existing leases? Then we also have another comment and question from Marcelli, Pat Marcelli, FNAPE. Why not use non-seismic exploration tools already proven by NUPRC to identify new pools? It was used in Komani River and confirmed area with 3D seismic. These new technologies are cheaper, short time from acquisition to processing. Why not grant these opportunities? Then last question from Daniel Amogu. Dr. Enu, please, given your vast experience and profile in the industry, are you championing the deep play test exploration well hard enough among other indigenous industry leaders? And what responses are you getting? Thank you.
Okay. Let me start from my own the question directed to me. The deep play. I like to go deep. During NAPE conference 2-3 years ago, there was a company that came to exhibit. And one thing I like in that exhibition booth was the seismic section that the company posted on the wall. And if you want to really admire seismic section, you don't go close to it. You move far away from it, and you see exactly what that section is saying. On that section, I saw TDs of wells. I added some from my knowledge. And I saw a section that is transparent. And I looked at the section below the transparent one. You also see some very good reflections. I had an argument with somebody we discussed, and we're saying, all those TDs, I call them hanging TDs, because I do not take those TDs as the real TD of the wells. You can go deeper. There's a company in Nigeria, I won't mention the name. They are very bullish. They drill deep. They go through what we call overpressure, but for them, we just call it hard pressure. They just drill on. And they have made discoveries below those transparent sections. And like somebody said here, that you could reprocess the seismic again, and those transparent sections will come out good. You now find that they are really not shaley, they are not high pressure areas. So my recommendation, my advice to those who are still in service is, if you really want to carry on with exploration, instead of going to places we are not sure of, go back to where you have drilled before, reprocess your seismic. If your seismic is good enough, drill deeper. Shallow water, deep water, you still have some turbidites below the TDs where you stopped. Encourage your managers. Your managers will find it difficult to put money down for deepening wells, but I think I encourage that wells should be deepened. That's my view. Wells should go deeper. I call the TDs of wells hanging TDs. You've not really gotten to the TD of your wells. So that's my recommendation. And there was a question, sorry. Why not use non-seismic exploration tools? I've heard of this before. I know where it's coming from. My suggestion is that the company that has introduced that and so on should please come in November to come and make a presentation during NAPE conference so that more people will hear about it. I'm sure it will generate some interest. I've heard about it, but I don't know if there is anybody who has knowledge of non-seismic exploration too. But for more people to know about it, I recommend that a presentation should be done during NAPE this year. PE, please note that. I know where the question is coming from. I will let you know. Any other question? Exploration bonuses. You talked about that. Exploration bonuses come from our regulators. What he's saying is that don't tell lies. Yeah, it should be straightforward. If you are drilling exploration, well, let it be exploration. But the good thing is that we have knowledgeable people in NUPRC now. So you have to make presentation to them, and they are there to challenge you, to really tell you that what you are saying, what you are calling exploration well is really not exploration well, especially if they are within the same structure. So let us be straightforward in our presentation, not just call them exploration wells because of bonuses. Bonuses are incentives, but don't because of that go and tell some lies. Any other?
Yeah, so the question from Amara around what do we do with the oil? So I think it's been answered to say that let's continue with the oil because all of this will still play in the energy mix, leading all the way to transition. So indeed, we're not planning to just leave it there and walk away, but everything is going to still be part of the energy mix. Yeah.
Yeah.
My final contribution is, I think majority of us, and even those not in the industry, they look at oil business as just production of PMS, that's petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel. They think that's all that it is. That's not correct. There's a lot more than that. We have the petrochemical industries. Some of our refineries here were designed to really produce a lot of petrochemicals. Those are byproducts of hydrocarbon as well. So if you don't bring those oil, where are those petrochemical byproducts are going to come from? So my view is that oil is still relevant to still furnish those petrochemical industry to produce those byproducts where more of the money really is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just have two discussion to make. One is the presence of shallow oil and gas, not as deep or within the areas where you have drilled before. You can see, as of today, most of these marginal field operators, most of them have not drilled deeper than where they met the wells. They were actually drilling within the areas which has been drilled. These are bypass reservoir sands. And by, reprocess your seismic and use the technology of today, you will be able to harness some of those bypass hydrocarbon. And secondly, within these shallow intervals, where you have actually drilled into shale, thicker than probably 1,000 feet, usually the sand below those shales are usually low stand system track sand body. And 80% of these sand bodies, they contain hydrocarbon. So sometimes if you are in these marginal field team, try as much as possible to scan through those shallow areas between 5,000 and 8,500 feet. You may be able to add more value to your company. And this may be one of the things in which you translate from volume to value opportunities. And the second aspect of it is, getting assistance from the bank. If you go to the website of NUPROC, NUPROC. No, what do you call this thing? Is it NUPROC? Sorry. No, Simbi, Wabote. Yes. They have a lot of facilities, if you know how to navigate yourself through that website. Basically, I've seen many companies that they have given loan of, probably one digit to, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five. So it's an opportunity if you're looking for loan of just 1%, less than 1%, and less than 6%. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Adeshida. At this point, and thank you to all of you for keeping up. And thank you for those of you online for holding on. Thank you, our presenter again. I will give you another round of applause. Because if your presentation was not good enough, I would have seen some people walk out of this room, but I've not seen anybody walk out. So you'll be able to keep us. Panelists. So at this point, let me hand over to our PE, President-elect.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eno, our chairman. Another round of applause to our chairman, panelists, and speaker. It's you can't get better than this in terms of the experience we've got here. But I was going to tell you, chairman, that I know you were looking for a slot for Dr. Andrew in Shell, but he does, because in a SNEPCO co-venturer, when he was in Exxon, I think he has about a good equity share in there. So he has an affiliation to Shell as well. Well, thank you very much for this session. Now, I think we're almost there, just before we have our lunch. So just to give you a heads up, we will take sponsors' remark from Gogo NAEC for Shell shortly. And then the public secretary is going to come give us some key announcements that are very important to you. And then we'll wrap up with vote of thanks before the lunch. But before we go in there, I want to call back our chief host, the president of NAPE, Eudorah Ogunjobi, to please come on stage. And so he's going to do the honors to appreciate our speaker, our chairman, our panelists first. And then he's not going to appreciate Shell sponsor until we hear him. So if he doesn't speak, we won't appreciate him. So we'll hold on for him, and then we'll go with the people on the stage. Mr. President.
Wow. Thank you so much, AB, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, the speaker, and the panelists. I'm sure that it has been a stimulating conversation. I mean, the trend of our discussion has not changed in the past couple of years. And like I was telling my president-elect, we will continue to talk until they start listening to us. If you look at the last conference, the two key topic was unlocking Nigerian remaining reserve for energy diversification. And somebody just asked a very vital question. If you don't get those oil out now, we will leave 50% of them behind, whether we like it or not. If you are producing and nobody is ready to buy your goods, you have to use it yourself. So the conversations has been there, and one of the commitments we made to this association in November was that we will take this conversation to the people that should listen. And we have started doing that, going to the National Assembly, we'll meet with the ministers. We are going to get to Asoro. Somebody needs to listen, and we need to do the needful so that we can use the resources that we have to project and pioneer the energy transition that we are talking about. And they have to listen to us. A lot of discussion has been asked, questions have been asked, and I think one key aspect that we also need, which I'm not taking over the discussion. Somebody asked about domesticating the issue. And one key aspect that we need to look about is our evacuation issue. Our oil well will not be bankable until we have a route to the market. Today is still a challenge. Most of the landlocked opportunities that we have discovered, some of them cannot even get to the market. So if you borrow money, how do you pay back for the money? Lembe Great Trunk Line is down now for the past 2 years. And there are a lot of opportunities along those trunk lines that could not get to Bonnet Terminal. So how do we encourage the policymaker, the decision maker to fund the exploration well when you cannot even get the crude to the market? The social issue is there, the community unrest is there. These are conversations that we need to have, apart from even looking at the reserve themselves. You can have your reserve, you can drill it, and you don't get it to the market, it's as good as nothing. So those are conversations we are still going to have. I'm not going to open up another round of discussion, but my role here is just to thank you, Eudorah, for stimulating us once again this February to have that conversation. And on that note, I would just like to appreciate you first, if you don't mind. So what we do in NAPE is that we brand our speakers and our panelists with our lapel. So I'm going to do that. Thank you so much. So that I'm very compliant.
Chairman, sir, Dr. Enu.
And I want to thank you for always answering our call. This time we call our minister. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dr. Andrew. Dr. Adeshida. Okay, no, that's all. So, but Mr. President, you stay back. So, okay, maybe you can have that seat now. So, so you don't go. So, may I now call on the sponsors remark from Shell? I may I now invite to stage Mr. Gogo NAO, GM Exploration Shell Nigeria, for sponsors remark. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, and I beg to stand on existing protocols. Good afternoon. I think I don't want to keep you, this wonderful audience, away from your lunch, so I'll keep this very brief. Eudorah, you wanted me to steal your thunder. I stood firm not to say anything. Thank you for making us proud. I'm sure the bench of Shell elites who are seated here are really, really proud of what you've done. So thank you so much. And to the crowd and everyone, can I just ask all of you to give the current executive of NAPE an applause on behalf of Shell, President Abiodun and PE. Thank you so much for giving us the platform to showcase not only Eudorah, but a topical issue in the business environment of oil and gas today around the shift from volumes to value. I think we've talked a lot about it, what it is, the challenges about it. You talked about it from a global perspective, and that is important because when you talk about exploration, those who actually do exploration, not near-field appraisals, are the international organizations. When you talk about exploration, those who fund it are actually the Western banks. Things are changing, which you talked about. You mentioned Barclays Bank saying that they're not going to fund growth anymore. And what that really means for us is that if there are no real growths, you won't have new basin deliveries. If you look at Niger Delta, particularly in deep water, if you take a curve of the deep water Niger Delta against that of Gulf of Mexico, just like the chairman, Dr. Enu, said, we flattened too early because we're no longer drilling actual exploration wells. We've not gone beyond the amplitude floor that we've seen so far to explore deeper into the Oligocene and deeper environment just to check out what could potentially be there. We've not even explored all the basin floor fans that there could be. So there is opportunity in Nigeria, but that can only be taken if there is a pivot away from how we do the business traditionally up until now to what it would look like going forward, because partners will change. If you look at some of the majors, they are focusing, reconsolidating their strategies such that you won't get them doing business in other places. Getting them to fund exploration will become very, very difficult. You need to look for new players. Who are those new players? We talked about Africa here. We didn't talk about China. Why not? We didn't talk about India. Not too long ago, India bought into Suriname to own new acreages in Suriname. That's a strategy that you can deploy, getting the right government strategy to support you. So this is about opening up the conversation. This is not closing the conversation. So thank you for opening up the conversation. There are a whole lot of plethora of ideas that have been brought into this conversation. NAPE, please take it forward and let's make it happen for Nigeria, for our communities and for ourselves. With that, I want to say it's been a great, wonderful pleasure for Shell to sponsor such an occasion that continues to improve and grow the opportunity to get the business going in Nigeria. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. And may you then stay back and now receive your own appreciation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So you remain on stage. So we'll now take a group photograph, yes. So once the group pictures are done, the public secretary will take us very quickly through the announcements, then vote of thanks by myself, then we'll then go for our lunch. So just hold on. We'll be done in the next 5 minutes or so. So we'll quickly take the picture. All right, as they go back to the stage, can we give them another round of applause as they take back their seats? All right, PS.
All right. Thank you very much, my PE. So for our announcement, just as we've had an insightful presentation today from Shell, just to give us heads up that we're also going to have another insightful presentation next month, the month of March. But something for the month of March is important for us to note that it's going to come in earlier as opposed to our usual third week, Wednesday in the month, because the month of March is going to have a lot of activities, including NMGS conference and all of that. So we are bringing it forward. It's going to hold Wednesday, the 6th of March at a cool hotel. And it's going to be sponsored by West African Exploration and Production Company. And we're going to have a talk by Mr. Joseph Chinye, who is the Exploration Manager for WAIP. And the technical meeting for the month of March is a special edition because we are doing that in honor of one of our distinguished fellow and member of our association, Mr. K.K. Kanu F. Nape, who will be turning 70 in a very short while. Please, can we give him a resounding round of applause? And for the month of April, we also have another exciting presentation, which will be sponsored by Harvest Joe Solution, with the topic, Capturing the Future, the Geology and Geophysics of Carbon Storage. And that will be holding on 17th of April. Then over to other chapters. So the UK-Europe chapter will be having a technical presentation on the 23rd of February with the topic, Wax Remediation Using Mantwood's Continuous Customized Chemical Injection Technology, and that will be holding 23rd February. Of course, you can join online if you wish to join. And over to Warri chapter. Warri chapter will also be having a technical meeting tomorrow, 22nd of February, 2024. And that will be holding at 3 p.m. Please do well to join. We also have another chapter, Ochai-Audu chapter. We'll also be having that technical meeting on the 29th of February. And that will be holding at 11 a.m. Please do well to join them online. Again, the new one is here. Our latest chapter, the North American chapter, will be having their maiden edition of the technical meeting, and that will be sponsored by LECOI. So perhaps you'll be in perhaps US, Canada, Mexico, within that timeline. Please do well to join them. The venue is yet to be communicated, but there will also be online feature for both of those of us in Nigeria that want to join them online. That will be holding on the 21st of March, 2024, and the maiden edition will be delivered by no other than our BOT member, Dr. Nosa Omarodion F. Nape, Executive Director, SLB, and he will be speaking on latent opportunities in Nigeria's rapidly evolving energy landscape. Port Harcourt chapter will also be having a technical meeting on the 26th of March, and that will be delivered by Dr. Adelola Adeshida. Please do well to join them online. Yeah, for the NAPE, will also be exhibiting as a way of increasing our visibility, both locally and internationally. We'll also be exhibiting at Nigerian International Energy Summit. We'll have a booth at B47. And also, our distinguished president will also be presenting during the conference, which we'll be holding next week. And just last week, we also participated at the SIPEC conference, where our president was also a distinguished speaker. So all of this effort is geared towards giving NAPE more publicity and more visibility across different associations and other stakeholders across the industry. Over to the conference, we have started planning for the 2024 Annual International Conference and Exhibition for NAPE, with the topic, Resolving the Nigerian Energy Trilemma, Energy Security, Sustainable Growth, and Affordability. Please, if you haven't registered yet, please, it's time to start registering. And then, of course, for those of us that want to exhibit, do well to sign up for your exhibition. The conference planning committee will be inaugurated tomorrow. So please, if you've been contacted, do well to attend the inauguration, which will be inaugurated tomorrow. Yeah, then for exhibition, it might be surprising to know that we've gone very far in selling out the exhibition booth. So this year promises to be very, very exciting and engaging. So please, if you are thinking of exhibiting at 2024 conference and then perhaps you think we'll have time, we do not have so much time. We already have a lot of the slots sold out already. So please reach out to the exhibitions committee, heavily led by Abidemi Belgore. I think our contact is there, yes. Or you reach out to Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence, where are you? All right, so you can also signify your interest with Mr. Lawrence. For NAPE News, please, if you haven't paid your NAPE news, dues, it is time to update your membership and also pay your membership dues, and we'll have different fees for different categories. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. And of course, we'll have few slots for monthly technical meeting for sponsorship. So if you want to sponsor any technical meeting, whether in Lagos or any of our chapters across the globe, please do well to reach out to the President-elect, Mr. John Bosco Uche, who is the chairman of Continuing Education Series. Thank you very much. May I hand over to the President-elect now? Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Publicity Secretary. I think we are there now. So this is the last agenda to give a vote of thanks. But before I do that, I think I just want to a bit of re-echo what the PS said. If you look at the conference planning, we've already started in earnest. And if you're planning to exhibit, you can see about 80% of the space is already gone. So just get in touch as quickly as possible to see if we can still get a slot for you. So that's one. Then also for the monthly meeting, I also want to mention that up until June, it's almost locked in. So again, if you have interest to sponsor, then we're looking from like July into October. So just try to just get involved as quickly as possible. Now, I'm here to really say many thanks to every single one of you seated. If not because of you, we won't be having this monthly technical and business meeting. And I think in a while, I'm not sure if we've had this turnout, both online and in the rooms. And I think you deserve a very big round of applause for your participation today. So thank you very much for the turnout. I want to thank everybody that have joined, but I just want to go through very quickly, starting with the presenter, Eudorah Ochai, the speaker for today. Again, a round of applause for her for the talk she gave. And then in quick successions, I want to recognize our dear chairman, Dr. Emmanuel Enu, FNAPE, for chairing the session, the panelists, Dr. Andrew Ejerese, FNAPE, FNMGS, for being a panelist, and our dear Dr. Ekunle Adeshida, FNAPE, for being a panelist. A round of applause for three of them. Thank you very much. Then I also want to thank the sponsor. You already heard the remark, and our own dear Gogo Enayok. Thank you very much for coming around. And I want to go through others, and by the way, Doctor, I know I didn't mention this, but again, he's someone I've always admired. I know he left, I think he became the exploration manager for Deepwater in 2004. It took about 14 years after, before I went to sit on that seat, same seat that he sat, almost 14 years after. So everything and all the reports and everything, just be rest assured that everything is in good shape. And there's Chima, who is now making sure that it's working quite well, sitting next year. So thanks for everything you've done for us while we're in Shell. Now, I want to recognize many fellows that joined, those that are in the room. I think we've recognized everybody, except few that just joined late. Dr. Akintunde Karim, FNAPE, who joined us later. Thank you very much. And then online we have Dr. Abimbola Durobutan, who joined us, and also our own Marcel Amu, FNAPE, who also joined us in here. Just to complete that round of recognition. And Dr. Kenny Ladipo, I think he was here briefly and left as well. Now, our BOT and Advisory Council, some of them joined, and a lot of our ESCO members are in the room, and then some are also online. And then this ESCO keep spending their time. You know, sometimes if you need to see the debates that we have, are working so hard. So please, a round of applause for our ESCOs that are here in the room and online. All right, I think I will leave it in here and say many thanks. Just to promise you that NAPE is going to continue to drive the ambition of why we are existing. You will notice already we're going to continue to be dynamic, continue to show up, and I can tell you the value is there. The value is there. And most importantly, once you are done with your lunch, make sure the networking happens, because that's part of why we're here. On that note, I will say thanks once again, and I can tell you that the lunch is served. Our fellows and the dignitaries will, Lawrence, our fellows, which we have the, okay, so the very first serving point on my left is going to be for our fellows, our past presidents, our sponsors, our speakers, panelists. Will please take the first stand on my left. And then if you are sitting closer to the right, you can go to that serving point. And if you are more to the left, on that serving point. And on that note, I will say thanks. And the monthly technical meeting for this month is now done. Thank you very much, and enjoy the afternoon.
Me, no question why, yeah. Cause you don't miss your water till the well runs dry. Yeah, listen, if you ever get the feeling you wanna play around, start cheating, remember you don't miss your water till the well runs dry. Some days, you know what? Check it out. On my way to see my friends who lived a couple blocks away from me. As I walked through the subway, it must have been about 3:15. In front of me stood a beautiful honey with a beautiful body. She asked me for the time. I said I was her name. She did the number and a date with me tomorrow at 9. Did she decline? No. Didn't she mind? I don't think so. Was it for real? Damn sure. What was the deal? A pretty girl at 24. So was she keen? She couldn't wait. Said I'm a queen. So let me go date. What did you say? She said she loved me too. Right at the ass where I could love you. So we stopped in my room for Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday we chilled on. I met this girl on Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday we chilled on. Nah, was it time? Cause I be getting mine and she be looking fine. We talked, she told me she loved to unfold me all night long. I said, ooh, I love the way she kicked it. From the front to the back, oh yeah, you day and dry. Oh, I get, oh that you care. Something that will always be there. Ooh, yeah, you're not a man to play around, baby. Ooh, yeah, cause the one that stand is a relief there for the first impression. You don't seem to be like that. That's but I'll be plenty time for that. From the subway to my home, and let's ringing off my phone. When you're feeling all alone, all you gotta do is just call me Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday, and on Thursday and Friday and Saturday we chilled on. I met this girl on Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday, and on Thursday and Friday and Saturday we chilled on. You know what, Cardi? Since I met this special lady, who yes, I can't get her out of my mind. She's one of a kind. It's a special kind of thing with you. You know what? Check it. Some of them are ace, some of them are love this. Some of them are hold the mic are hopeless. Some of them are try, some of them are try this. So I just take the notice when I write like this. Jump around in my Adidas. Quick David R&B vocalist, come over bigger than Chris. Just the microphone, come back and rock the mic. If you don't know, you better get to know. Your boy Craig David rap the new flow. Gotta break it down something like this. Gotta break it down something like that. Gonna break it down girlfriend like. You know what? It's the brand new format for all the cats who thought I want all that. And all the girls talking behind my back, and I'm a girlfriend. I'm sleeping with all the different girls from round about and walking away. But about the day, brand new remix designed for the DJ. Took on a drop and keeping up the same melody. Lyrically, living for the cover to MC with a B, ripping in the crowd loudly. Roll out, and there's a trap, probably or maybe. You don't have to rock a party. I say crazy, but all over your body. I know it seems as though this can be possible. How a young kid.